record now. Awesome. The recordings will be here. You can always go back, watch the recordings. They're really helpful. I watch previous recordings of myself with other instructors. I was recording my day class today so the students can go back. It's really helpful, especially when you cover a lot of material. For the agenda, we're going to do attendance. That's kind of the first thing that I always want to make sure that we do. And I like to use the Slack channel for attendance. So I'm going to just say, click here for attendance. And I will add a check mark. Let me see, is it check, heavy check mark. Boom, there we go. So I'm adding the heavy check mark. Yeah, just click on it. I'll go back to this and just check to make sure everyone was here, checked on it. Okay. And then I'll mark the attendance. It's just me, so I have to keep track of everyone, do attendance, get everyone set up with everything. Awesome. And then we'll start with, oh, I didn't want to do that. We'll start with welcome. I have a welcome deck, an intro deck. We'll go through that. I collected the Trello names. The deck covers things like classroom culture. Also, we'll meet everyone. Everyone will have an opportunity just to kind of go around, say their name, where they're from, you know, their interest in React. You know, how does it pertain to your job? Or is it just something you're like, as a developer, you're like, I got to learn React. Whether my job wants me to learn it or not, you have to learn React. Being located in New York City, React is the thing. I went on interviews maybe like in March or so. I had a few months off, just decided to do interviews. Every recruiter said the same thing, like React. Do you know React? React. Everybody was React. So we'll go around. We'll jump into breakout rooms real quick too at some point in time so you get used to the format, because this remote format is different than being in an in-class room, right? An in-class room, I can go over to your desks, you can talk to each other. But one of the advantages of, I think, the remote setup is that we can do these little breakout rooms so you can work with somebody in kind of a siloed, silent area versus being in a room where everyone's talking. But at the same time, it does kind of isolate you in this area. But we're gonna use breakout rooms during the class to kind of work on labs. So you have somebody else to kind of feed off of, somebody else to talk to. Then we'll go into, we'll take a look at some of the pre-work, the ES6. I can see the percentage of pre-work completed by everyone in the class. Looks like mostly everyone did it. If you've been working with JavaScript, I can't imagine the ES6 material and this ES6, this 2015 ES material is going to be too foreign to you if you've been working with it. If you're kind of new to JavaScript, that's a different story. JSX, part of the pre-work too. We're going to keep going into that. React components, also huge, right? That's what React is. Props, part of the pre-work. And then at the end of the class, we have exit tickets. And the exit tickets are meant to collect some feedback. What'd you think about the class? What went well? What would you like to see different? And I'm really big into feedback, so I'll always look at the exit ticket feedback. I even address the feedback in the next class. If there was, you know, a lot of the times I teach classes and I'll get, in the same exit ticket, I'll get class was too fast, class was too slow, class was just right. All three, and it's really hard to teach to all three of those. So, but getting that feedback, seeing where everyone's coming from, I can reach out to the right people, give the advanced students maybe additional work, whatever it is. But leave your feedback, whatever it is, I read it. And then once again, just objectives today, get to know how the online environment works, you know, course flow. I believe everyone's on Slack, right? We've all communicated. And then we'll jump into React. I'm kind of excited just to like start coding with React. As an instructor, I just want to start like, I know you doing some pre-work or reading some Medium articles or whatnot, you'll learn React, but not the same as you typing away and coding, right? That's the best way to learn anything. So I'm going to open up the deck. I'll kind of start going through the deck. Welcome to React. Classroom guidelines, we'll be going over that. Who am I? I'm Joe Keohan. I am going to be teaching the React course. I'm also a full-time instructor at General Assembly in New York City. Been here about 3.5 years. I teach their software immersive program, their 3-month intensive program. So we learn everything from React on the front end to Node and Express to Ruby on Rails on the back end. I teach the Vue class, the JavaScript class. So I've taught a lot of classes, and I've taught remote as well. So I kind of prefer the remote. You know, I get to stay home and in the comfort of my home and get to teach and record classes. So it's pretty awesome. If you have any questions about the other programs, feel free to reach out to me. So I guess we jump right into homework here, right? Homework, be sure to complete all of your pre-work. So if you did not complete your pre-work, just, you know, try to complete that. And whatever assignments that we might have before class, just get that done. And homework assignments are going to be due on Tuesday. So before we start, if you send it sooner, I'll take a look at it, but it's usually due that day that you come in. But getting it sooner means I can take a look at it, get you some feedback. But my assumption is we all have jobs. Everyone's working for the most part. So between working a full-time job, taking a part-time class, having to do homework, at times it might seem overwhelming or you just don't have the time. And that's cool. You can reach out to me. We can work something out. But there are requirements for the class. You're also going to have a final project for the class. And so you're going to build your own React app. I'm sure everyone has an idea for an app, right? I get, you know, how many beer apps, restaurant apps that I've seen students build over my time as an immersive instructor. So whatever it is that you're looking to build, I've probably seen a version of it in one way, shape, or form. So we can talk about it. You can always feel free to Slack and say, hey, I have an idea. The sooner you start thinking about this, the better, right? Don't wait till the last 2 weeks to start building it out. As you start to learn things, you can start architecting your React application, start building out small things, investigate the rest of the React ecosystem, like React Strap, which is the Bootstrap version of it, or I work with D3, which is a data visualization library, and there's versions of that for React also. So, and it can be anything you want. Personal blog, website, to a friend, for a friend. So some people want to remake sites for other people. That's fine too. Somebody wants a portfolio site, build them a portfolio site. Anything you want. Or remake, I'm preferable at times to, if you don't have an idea, remake something like, I don't know, Instagram, right? You know what it looks like. You can clearly see the functionality. There's no assumptions there. So you just go ahead and make that, something like that, to the best of your degree. And then we'll start planning in week 5. That's when we start actually doing the planning for it. And then week 8 is when you actually, your homework becomes the final project. There's no assignments, but your final project. So there'll be deliverables at that point in time. Completion requirements for the class. Let's see, let me zoom in on this. Get a little bigger. 17 of the 20 classes, right? It's 10 weeks. We meet twice a week, 20 classes. You must attend 17 of them for completion, okay? And successful completion all the projects. So the final project, you must do the assigned homework. You're gonna also have to complete the homework, or 80% of the homework. Assignment submission, you're gonna have a 3-day grace period. If you couldn't get it done, reach out to me. I'm not super strict on it, but I wanna get it done because anything that you learn is gonna go towards your final project, right? If you arrive after 8 p.m., you're late, right? I mean, I got the check mark. It's not like I'm going to look and see, oh, who didn't check at 8 o'clock, but technically we could mark you as late. I'm just more concerned with you missing something, right? You're jumping in the middle. If I'm doing a code along and you jump in at 8:30 and I'm already, 20 minutes into the code along, well, then you've lost that material, right? And I can't really stop and say, all right, I got to jump in and help you while I'm teaching the class. So you kind of put yourself at a disadvantage. 10 o'clock is when it ends. I mean, if you need to leave earlier, you can reach out to me and say, I need to jump off. That's fine too. Once again, you'll miss material, but depending on what time you leave, you may not miss that much. 3 late arrivals or early departures is 1 absence. So if you're late 3 times, that'll mark off as an absence. You miss more than 3 days regardless of any reason, you won't complete the class, right? 3-day max, 17 classes you must attend, okay? And if you miss a class, just notify us. Notify the IL. Sometimes we have an IA helping out. I don't have one for this class, but just Slack me and say, I can't make it, I'm going to be late, whatever. It's kind of just a communication game at that point in time. Let me know. The remote classroom cultures and norms. So think about the last time you were in a classroom. I remember the classroom rules that were on the wall. I don't know if you had a classroom that had classroom rules. I don't believe I ever had, but sometimes we try to capture some of the norms that are part of these classes. So everyone's on the same page with how we should act and behave and what we should expect of each other, okay? And so things like, don't talk until you're called on. Raise your hand, things like that. I mean, I want to elicit conversation. I want to elicit questions at times. And if I feel, as when I'm doing some sort of code along or lecture, that the questions just need to be sidelined, I'll easily say, hey, I'll put that on the side and we'll get to it later, right? Put it on the back burner. But feel free to always ask questions. Okay, instead of making rules for the classroom, we have norms that we're going to expect everyone adhere to. I think we're all professional people. We all know, we'll all respect each other. If anything happens, just reach out to me. You can tell me directly. 4 key norms for success. So for the environment, do you like a lot of noise? Probably quiet. Less distraction is probably what you're looking for when you're doing this class. 2 monitors. That's set up also. Always keeping your video on and your microphone muted is a great way. So I just want to take the moment now for everyone just to turn their videos on. Just make sure that your videos are working. Okay, I see a few of you already have the video. There you go. Awesome. When I do give the lecture, I do prefer the videos are on because I will ask questions. I will say, hey, we just did this. And then I'll ask someone a question or like, hey, Yoon, we just did this last week. What are we doing? But if you're not there, I don't know if you're there. You might have walked away. So I know who's there when I actually see your face and I know you're sitting there. Okay? That's how I know. So if you need to step away, then you just go off the video. That's fine. We're gonna go on breaks. Yeah, Gene, we will be taking a break in class. I just saw you slacked out. Probably about every hour. We're only here for 2 hours. So at mid-hour, say 9 o'clock or so, we'll take a break, 5-10 minutes, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, grab some coffee, whatever. Then we'll come back and rejoin the classroom. And I'll slack out what time to come back. Professionalism, norms, once again, back to the norms, speak to each other respectfully. I think we all understand those things. Community participate, ask questions. This class is kind of for you. It's 2 hours. You're not learning JavaScript. You're like, understand the language and you want to learn React. So by all means, ask the questions that are going to help you learn React to the degree that you need. And once again, if I need to, put them on the sidelines because it's not immediate to what we're doing, I'll do that, okay? The breakout rooms, really cool. Breakout rooms are used for, once again, to communicate in small groups. Has anyone taken a remote class before? And see, with that question, you can just jump off and say, yeah, okay. A handful of you, okay. I also have, we have the ability to do polls in the Slack. So I'm going to say, have taken a remote class before? Here we go. Yes, no. Oh, we don't have. They didn't install the Pro tool. So I'm going to have to install the tool. In this particular channel, they didn't install it. All right. So I'll say click here if you took a remote class. Thumbs up. There you go. I'm just trying to get an idea of who took it. We can talk later, maybe your experience if you did do it when we go around the room. Maybe you have some best practices you want to share with the class. It's like 3 people. Awesome. If you're in the breakout rooms, you get help. If you have a question, you can either Slack me in the channel. I can jump into the breakout room. I can just jump into breakout rooms at any point in time and see how everyone's doing. But if you definitely need some help, you just go in the normal Slack channel and say, hey, I need some help. And then I can just jump into the breakout room. We also have the ability to whiteboard. I have a tablet. I have a little pen. So I can whiteboard at any point in time, any higher level concepts that need to be covered. And then just, once again, class norms, share in a thread. So if we had to just kind of discuss class norms here, I would say, what is one top class norm you would like? I'm just going to slide something out. I'll start a thread in the channel. There's one top class norm. You. Okay. And in here, I'm going to start a thread. And in the thread, just add something that you would like as maybe a class norm. I'm going to possibly say, like, ask lots of questions. Don't be afraid. I'm actually going to reword this. Don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. Okay? It's one of my norms. We're also just testing out the functionality of all the remote tools. Just consider this a, hey, I just posted something in the Slack channel. It's a thread. Reply to the thread. Don't reply in the Slack channel. Okay? So that's your cue. Your cue to reply to the thread. Take a moment to think about it. Here we go. Connor, be open to the other ways of doing things. Great. Love it. Be patient with others. That's a big one. Everyone learns at their own pace. So I gave a lecture today where one student was able to just blast through it, and others were like, I'm still confused. Can we just redo it? Rebuild the server again. Yeah. Ask questions. Listen more than you talk. That's just a great one in life, Gustavo. Sometimes I wish I did more of that in my life. No question is a bad one. I like that too. Questions are good. Nurture and embrace everyone's skill level. And you'll see the different skill levels when we do breakout rooms. I'm just going to randomly choose breakout rooms. So when we do the breakout rooms, I'll just pair people up randomly. I won't know your skill set. And so you'll have to talk through things and work through things, right? Most of the time, everyone gets along, but you know, if it doesn't happen that way, you just let me know. Same, okay, cool. Once again, there's some other class examples here, right? Respect everyone, be open, be an open communicator. Do not disengage when working in a group. So when you're in the breakout room, you know, communicate. Just don't kind of put your head down and not talk about the problem, right? Be open to constructive feedback. I'm open to constructive feedback because I'm collecting that in exit tickets, and I get all sorts of feedback. So, you know, if anyone does suggest something, you know, just take it, don't take it to heart. Take others into account, be collaborative, maintain a growth mindset. That's really big, right? Fail forward, something doesn't work, Think about it that as an opportunity to continue to learn and learn not to do that thing. That's what fail forward is. It's like, now you know what not to do. You focus on what to do, okay? Have fun. We're gonna ask questions, cool. All right, looks good. You didn't add it, you can add it anytime you want, add more stuff. That does take. So before we begin, if you have to miss class, let me know. Zoom, that's always going to be posted. It's the same link, and I will always have that link in the agenda. Every time I'm in the agenda, it'll be right here. So if you forgot where it is, you can just go there and get the agenda. Slack, attendance thread, we went over that. If you need to direct message me, just direct message me. If I'm teaching or doing something, I'm not going to respond immediately. Course materials, we'll cover that in a little bit. Everything that I'm going to provide is pretty much through the Trello board, and we'll link back to a GitHub repo. You'll see that. You should have access to my GA because that's what you use to do the pre-work. So if you didn't do the pre-work, then you didn't have access to my GA. That's a whole other story. You can Slack me, we can talk about that. And just, you know, projects and other submissions, how we're going to submit our projects. I'm going to be slacking out or just updating this Google spreadsheet with links to like the labs or the homeworks, so you can just post your link there. We're going to be using things like Code Sandbox, which is what I asked everyone to sign up for. Because we're a remote class, it's just easier for me to like open up something in the browser and just like edit it, troubleshoot it versus download something, install all the dependencies, run it, and then figure it all out, push it all up, make a pull request. It's really time consuming for anyone. So I want to help get you to where you need to get to ASAP. So the Code Sandbox is really what we're going to be using. Exit tickets, didn't mention, there's a link in the Trello board for exit tickets. And, you know, once it's time for exit tickets, I'll Slack it out the first couple of times, and then I'll just say, hey, end of class, exit tickets, please fill them out. And I will kind of follow up with everyone. If I notice, once again, it's a remote class, I'm in New York, it ends at 10. Last thing I want to do is fill out an exit ticket, right? It's 10 o'clock, I want to go to bed. But I will follow up with several of you if I notice that you're not filling the exit tickets out. Because the feedback is super important. Success to learning. All right, so this emotional life cycle, this is more, I'm going to say, for the day class. The day class is you learn so much stuff so fast that you just don't feel like you can breathe, you can catch up. This class is not going to be that way, but at the same time, you're going to be learning a lot of material for React. You're going to be expected to apply this material in the homeworks. In the labs, if you didn't like do reading or you didn't do anything that was assigned as say homework, then you might fall behind a little bit. So it might seem at times like, oh, I'm down here. Just keep pushing through. If you do feel like that, just reach out to me. I haven't had anyone like, oh my God, this is crazy. What are you doing? The part-time classes are a little easier. Responsibilities, 50% GA, 50% you. You got to do the work. You want the certificate of completion, do the work. You really want to learn it, you do the work anyway, right? Class is just this tool that kind of structures the material, presents it to you in such a way that you have someone to communicate with, you have others that are trying to learn the same thing. So let's do this. We'll do introductions, and we'll just kind of spend a few minutes. Everyone will go around. You'll go off mic, you'll go on video, and say your name, where you are in the world. I mean, we captured a lot in the spreadsheet. One thing you're hoping to get out of the course, and I would like to focus that also on if you need React for your job, if you're looking for React to be the next stepping stone in a career path, is it just something you heard was hot, you just want to learn it, you're not really even sure what you want to do with it yet? Whatever it is, let me know. That'll help guide me as we communicate. And just, kind of a personal thing, a favorite book you have read or TV show that you're watching, something like that. Whatever it is you want to share. So why don't I'll just go here. We can just go down the list. Yeah, Yoon.
Hi, my name is Yoon Seo. You guys just can call me Yoon. I'm from South Korea, currently located at New York City,
Okay.
and my job title is product designer. And the goal of my goal is to learn native React, how to make a web app,
Okay.
and that's and actually my company is looking into moving from Ionic to React Native. So
Okay.
that's one of the reasons why I'm taking this course. And my favorite book is Two Cities, The Tale of Two Cities. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. So you have then as a product designer, you said, Yoon?
Yes.
You're a product designer, and so you have a coding background at all?
A little bit. I actually when did I finish? Started last year, I think. Last
Okay.
year. -ish.
All right. So you've got some solid JavaScript skills. React Native, by the way, is React's kind of mobile platform, right? You're building out for mobile.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a separate thing than React. It's part of the React ecosystem.
Mhm.
I don't think we're not gonna get into React Native in this class.
Oh, okay.
React itself is just React, and there's a lot to do with React. React Native is just a different animal altogether. Still
Mhm.
components and such. I can send you resources and things.
Oh, okay.
No biggie.
Right.
So I don't think Riani. I don't even think I'm saying that right. They didn't add the trouble. Sylvia. Hmm.
Hey, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, Sylvia.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Sylvia, and I'm based in New York. I'm taking this class because I will be starting a new job at the end of the month, and React is pretty widely used at the new company I'll be joining. So, so that's it. I'm very excited to be here. My favorite book, I'm just thinking of like one recently that I read, but it was Essentialism by Gregory McEwen, which I really loved. And it just kind of focuses on what's really important
Great.
in life and things. So, yeah.
Awesome. Connor?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey everyone. My name's Connor. My last name is spelled ridiculously, but it's just like they're leaving, they're gone. That's how you say it. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I don't have developer background experience. I've just been doing this pretty much during my free time. I'm working as a customer success manager in Boston, and like I said, I pretty much just do some classes and like front end master courses, and I've just been doing a lot of stuff on my own. And reasons why I wanted to learn React is just because as I've been going through those courses, I've just been kind of chasing the things that I really like. And I went through a lot of vanilla JavaScript stuff, and then I jumped into Brian Holt's class on React, and I thought it was really awesome, and I wanted to take it a little bit further with this class.
Sweet.
And then favorite show, I know I'm like 20 years behind, but I started The Sopranos like 2 weeks ago, and it's pretty
yeah.
So yeah, I've been diving into that lately.
That is 20 years behind. Still a great show. Still a great show. Stefan?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. We can hear you, Stefan. I don't think you can hear us. All right. Give Stefan a second. Can't get it fixed. We will go to Megan, and we can always come back to you.
Hey y'all, I'm Megan. I'm in Chicago. Don't know why I just said y'all, but there we go. I've been an email developer for the last year and a half, which means I am stuck perpetually in 1995. So I'm very excited to get out of that era. I don't have a ton of JavaScript experience. I did GA's Feud class 2 years ago and haven't gotten really touched JavaScript since email doesn't allow it. So the ES6 is quite a refresher for me. But we did dabble in React at my Feud class, and my software company I work at is switching to React. So, and book I read recently that I really loved was American Gods.
Nice. So they taught React in the Feud class.
Yeah, he did 1 day of jQuery and said this is stupid and went straight to React. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I taught the Feud class like 5 times, and I just didn't feel they could handle React. Like it was just JavaScript, just teaching functions just blows people's minds, and they have a hard time getting it.
I think that's why I needed the refresher. So I'll definitely need the React part. So far I've gotten ES6 I'm still struggling with. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, and you know the whole debate, like, is jQuery dead? Is it going away? If you look at the amount of websites still supported by jQuery, it's like in the millions, 20 million, billions probably, right? React is not even close to that. So in Feud, we do teach jQuery, and I think at that level of Feud where people don't know anything, jQuery is like the best tool to learn, to build something up, to give you the sensation of what it's like to have a successful site that you can click on and do things. React, there's so much overhead, so much more you have to learn that's more of a Java. I teach React in the JavaScript class, the part-time class that I teach. That I've removed jQuery and supplemented it with React because I think it's just more relevant. Ramona.
Hello, I'm Ramona. I'm based in New York City, and I'm an Android developer. I work at the New York Times on the app platforms team. And I was interested in taking this class. Our front end at the Times is written in React, and our app has a bunch of interfaces with some of the web components that they've written, and I'm just trying to get a better understanding of the other side of that interface. And in terms of a favorite book, I don't know. A book I read recently that I really liked was called The Sympathizer.
Okay. Did you ever meet... I've been working with D3 for a while, and I knew the New York Times uses it pretty heavily, and the guy who invented it worked at the New York Times. His name was Mike Bostock.
Yeah, I don't know him, but I know of him.
Yeah, super smart dude. Yeah, I think he went off and he's built his own tool now called Observable.io, I think, where it's an interactive tool to build out D3 visualizations. Really cool.
Cool.
Thank you. Gene? Stefan, I didn't forget about you. We'll come back to you. I just wanted to make sure your audio is working. Gene, I don't think Gene, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, I had it on mute. Hey everybody, my name is John. I'm in DC, Washington, DC. I am a software developer using SharePoint. And my project has started to migrate out of Angular to React since we started to use Microsoft DevOps for our deployment. So that was the trigger for me to take this course to kind of get a lot more familiar with React and start to develop with that platform. Right now, the show I am watching is Snowfall. It's on. It's a really good show. So I encourage you guys to check it out.
That's cool. Thanks. I used to teach SharePoint and support SharePoint also. One of the things that got me into open source platforms like what I teach now is because no one liked SharePoint. Is that no one? I would teach a class, people would come in and they're like, "Can you take a look at my site?" And the thing was hideous. They didn't have any developers, and it was just so convoluted to spin up a SharePoint server with Active Directory and DNS servers and all this crazy stuff. It's insane.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we definitely picked up a lot of tricks workarounds with this project. So it's actually been very, very useful. I mean, stuff that I didn't know SharePoint could do.
Yeah,
We've been able to out, so it's been pretty good.
that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't even know SharePoint would support something like React or Angular.
Yep.
I mean, I haven't worked with it in a while.
Yep.
Cool. Josephine?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Well, I'm actually talking to you from the future because it's actually Wednesday the 11th where I'm from. So I'm from Melbourne, Australia, same with Stephen, who's just over the petition from me. And I am a junior front-end web developer, and my boss is sitting behind me giving me a bit of slack.
From the future, right?
Oh, there you go.
And I'm doing this course as part of a work requirement, as we'll be moving to a new web platform very soon, and part of that is using React. And my favorite book is Fabric of the Cosmos by Brian Greene.
Very nice. Very nice. So what do we got? Abner?
It looks like you skipped a lot of people, but
Oh, I did. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'll go back. Put you on hold. Rufat? Sorry. I hope I'm saying that right. Going once, going twice. All right. See you there.
Hear me now?
Yeah. All right.
See. Yeah, my name is Rufat. I'm not going to torture you with my last name. So I'm a agency in Boston. I've been doing that for about six-ish years. And we are primarily these days doing WordPress, but I've been there since there were like 3 people. So we kind of did a little bit of everything, Django, and now I'm trying to push over to kind of a different platform that would incorporate React. I rolled around a little bit in it and wanted a little picture to it in a class format. So yeah, that's what I'm favorite. I'll go to Hard to Be a God. It's just a fiction about a planet that had the stuck evil setting and kind of interesting introspective. So.
Okay. Rufat. You did come in a little choppy, so I don't know if it like your wireless is a little weak or so. Okay.
I was gonna say sometimes it's it might be my connection, but yeah, I'll see if it gets better or not. If not, maybe I'll restart the router. Normally it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is your connection. I mean, I'm hardwired into my connection, and I can see everyone else. And but
yeah,
right now
it should be mine. Literally, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I think now we jump to unless Mega. Saying that right? Mega there. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So yeah, I'm taking this class because I was a junior developer, full stack. So I decided I wanted to like focus more on front end, and I did work on React and Redux at my previous job, but it's just that I wanted to be like a React developer. So I felt like why not take a boot camp, kind of like solidify my skills in React in specific. Yeah, so that I am from San Francisco, basically the Bay Area. And about me, I would say, well, favorite show, I just finished watching Mindhunter, the 2 seasons. I'm just totally like mind blown about that show. Favorite book, well, I just got this book called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. And I cannot wait to actually like start on that book. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What kind of full stack? What were the other technologies you worked with?
So I actually took GA's full stack at San Francisco, the boot camp, the 12-week one. I took it last year. So we focused on Node.js, MongoDB, Again, a little bit of React. We did a little bit of Python, but it's just that the full stack wasn't really focused on any skill in particular. So I just felt like, I would like to deep dive a little bit on front end because that's what I want to focus on.
Yeah. I mean, I teach the immersive course.
Okay.
So you touch on everything and you come out with all of these skills, but they're not sharp skills.
Yeah.
But you could talk development with people, but you don't know anything so awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the downside to that. You can get the full scope of it. But in New York, we actually teach React in Unit 2. So React carries through the whole program.
Okay.
There are times I think the immersive program should split to a front end and a back end side because there's so many even front end things like CSS Grid and Flexbox that we just don't have time to go in and master responsive design. And then the same thing with React. Go further into React that we just don't have time to.
Yeah.
That's great.
I have a question. Do I have to keep my camera on during class? I mean, I'm just like shy, I guess.
Okay. The only reason why I ask that is when I do call, I will, as we do things in the future, I'm going to call on people to be like, all right, what's the answer to this? How do we do that? Like elicit feedback. So if I don't see anyone there, then I don't know you're there.
Okay.
Always an awkward thing for me to be like, all right, Mega, and like you don't answer, and I'm like,
okay. So if my name gets called, is it okay then I turn on the camera?
Sure.
And...
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna like break the whip on everybody.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Abner.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Abner Chen. I know that's not what my last name looks like it should be pronounced. Chinese is a crazy language. Let's see. I am in Los Angeles, California, and I am learning React because I have mostly been focused on the back end, and I would like to expand a little bit to become more of a full stack, maybe even move into a front end entirely. Just broaden my horizons a little bit. My favorite book would probably be Seventh Son by Orson Scott Card, who is also the author of Ender's Game. Probably most well known for that one.
Sweet. Thanks, Abner. Gustavo. Can't hear you.
All right.
There we go.
The lack of space bar didn't seem to work that time.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm Gustavo Rodriguez. I work for a software company that does big data and analytics called SaaS, and I consider myself a full stack SaaS developer. And I'm taking this course because I want to get a new job, and one of the jobs I applied for said I need to get better web skills, or rather more knowledge in web technologies. And I took that to mean, because I have a good understanding of the frameworks in the back end, that I don't have a good understanding of the frameworks on the front end. And React was a real good, rather General Assembly's React class was one of the better web framework centric online / in-person classes in the DC area. So I decided to move forward with that. And that encouraged me to do that. I just finished the television show Gravity Falls about 3 to 5 years too late, but I really enjoyed it. And I think that my favorite book is probably called The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan. He's the same guy who wrote like The Omnivore's Dilemma. And it's a pretty interesting nonfiction book that I really enjoyed.
That's great. Thanks, Gustavo. Michael? And Michael, then we have to go back to Stefan. Let's go with Michael. Michael.
Okay,
hey.
Michael, well, I go by Demola, by my middle name. Anyway, I am a SharePoint developer, and we are recently, working in Angular right now, but we're trying to work with React because SharePoint Online works better with React since everything is moving from back end to front end. And working with Angular was just very tricky to do a lot of stuff. So that's the reason why I'm taking this class. I know React works very well with SharePoint Online, and I actually took a JavaScript class with GA like a couple of years ago. So I really like the way it was structured. So I decided to, let's do GA again for React class. And my favorite, well, I can't say I have a favorite book or movie or anything like that, but the last show that I just watched was The Chi. So it was a pretty good show. The latest book that I'm reading right now is called Perfect Happiness. So yeah, that's about it.
Sounds great. Love it. Stefan, did you get everything working over there?
How's that? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, got it working. Yeah, hey guys, my name's Stephen. Originally from Ireland, been living here in Australia for the last 10 years or so. Same story as Joey. We're working together in a company that's moving their platform from Symfony, which is a PHP-based platform, to Shopify, which has a React-based front end. So yeah, we're doing this as part of our jobs as front-end developers to get up to speed on supporting that. I have some React experience just from being a developer, but yeah, looking forward to what I can get out of this one. And I would say my favorite book and movie would be Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Nice.
Yeah.
I was just watching that the other day.
Awesome movie. So good.
Wayback Machine too, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds good. I didn't say the book I was reading. I was reading Think and Grow Rich. I don't know. Does anyone read that one? Yeah. It's one of those dream of the money and it's going to happen, right? Not quite as easy as that. Got to put it to work, but awesome. Cool. Introductions, and then we'll go into the rest of the course material here. I think, let me just say, yeah, we only have a few more slides, then we can take a break. Course goals, once again, improve your problem-solving skills and how to solve problems with React and JavaScript. Build a bunch of things out to solve that kind of end-user problem, right? We're building out a front end. What does the front end need? How do you take that front end and divide it into multiple components? And how do you connect those pieces together? How do you make an API call to get data, to render the data, things like that. We'll look at the best tools that we can use, best practices, right? Learn to critique and analyze others' work, empower everyone else in the classroom to succeed, right? Be excellent to each other. This is more of the just like be good to each other. Ask a lot of questions. If you have a question, ask it. Don't be shy. Beginner's minds. Problems are going to present themselves with obvious solutions. Sometimes it's a typo, and you could be there for 20 minutes trying to figure out a typo. So having a second pair of eyes is always helpful. To learn from others, be curious. I'm just going to go over the top highlights here. Be curious, research. I'm going to be giving out articles to read and just to keep you going with it. Help answer questions. Somebody else has a question, feel free to jump in and answer their questions, Slack them, direct message them. Realize your limits. Take breaks when you can as you're coding. I mean, you're developers. A lot of you you have full-time jobs. You know how to handle your daily workload. So, avoid burnout, things like that. Cut yourself some slack. That's kind of our intro deck. So, get out of the intro deck. What we'll do now, it's about 9 o'clock. So why don't we take we'll take a 10-minute break. All right, take a 10-minute break. We come back, we'll jump into what I have, and I'll stay on Slack for a few minutes. I'll add whoever needs to be added to the Trello board, just confirm everything. If anything, you need to reach out to me, you can reach out to me for the next few minutes. So why don't we say 9:10. So let's come back at 9:10. I'm just going to put here in the Slack channel. Break time. Come back at 9:10. There we go. 10 minutes. Cool.
Does this have this cool timer? It will make a noise at 9:10 or no?
Nope, just come back. I mean, I can put something on. I can put the Google timer on. Usually what I'll do is something like if I leave my sharing screen, I'll just put the timer and then just put 10 minutes here. That just reminds me too. Cool.
All right.
Got what you wanted, Gustavo. That'll ding. It'll ding. All right.
All right. The only equivalent I have is online video games, where someone will put a big timer that will then count down slowly.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna jump off video. I'll leave the screen there, and I'm just gonna add whomever to the Trello board, and then we'll come back at 9:10. Okay. Okay, Joe. See you in a bit. right. About to get started. Ding, ding, ding. All right. No sound. But, all right. Share. All right. Okay, I think I got everyone added to the Trello board. Not, we can add anyone else who needs to be added. So did the intro deck, the pre-work review. What I really want to do, and I actually put here as code along, time permitting, what I wanted to do is kind of jump into React. I've taught the 2-hour kind of intro class to React, and don't really have much time to go into detail with React, so we just kind of code something out. So a lot of people that have no real coding experience could actually follow along. And so I'm going to see if we can jump into React and I can cover some of those React concepts and see why React is, I don't know, the way or the future of designing the front end. And there's other tools. You might have heard of something like Vue. Has anyone heard of Vue? Vue is the other competitor towards for the front end. It doesn't have the popularity that React does because React is, created by Facebook. Was adopted by a lot of big companies, and so Vue was somebody that created it and was like, hey, this is a competitor. I played with it a little bit, and it's a very simplified version of React. It's kind of cool, but then it's not React, and no one's calling me to get, do Vue. They're calling me to work with React. So that's a tool I want to work with. So what I wanted to do is just, part of kind of guaranteeing everyone's on the same page with some of the tools was kind of jump into a little code along. So I'm big with code along. So the best way to work with the remote is to have 2 monitors. So if you're just doing it on 1 monitor, that's not going to be the best way to take these classes because you might want to have my code on one screen and then your code, and you can kind of follow along at the same time, or you'll have the link. So the link was in the Slack channel. The link was in the Trello board. I'll also Slack it out just in case you don't have the Trello board open. There we go, Slacking it out. So what I usually do with the code alongs is this, and I do this with all the classes. When I do Feud and JavaScript classes, even when I'm teaching the immersive, is what I try to suggest is that you have this tab open with my code. This is connected to me. When I save it, if you refresh it, you will see it. But I also suggest that you fork it. But if you fork it right now, it's going to change the URL to your version, and you won't have my version. So what you can do is you could fork it right now so you have your version, and then just go into the Slack channel and then copy and paste the link that I sent and just open it up into another one. So if I go here, I could paste this one, and now essentially that could be mine and this could be yours, right? I'm not going to fork it because it's mine. It doesn't make any sense for me to fork it. But you should have 2 tabs, one with my code. So if you got lost at any point in time during the coding process, one, you could stop me and say, hey, Joe, can you save it? Can you just give us a moment? Can you go back to this? And I'll do that. But it also allows you to either copy and paste to get up to speed. I'm not going to be going at such a rapid pace that you could not follow along, right? The goal is to teach you React, not to just do a code along and watch me do it. That's not the goal, okay? So I always start with this. This is one of my favorites. I teach it in Feud, every class I've ever taught. Speak to any of my students and they're like, oh, Joe's teaching his color switcher again. But it's a really basic thing, and it'll show us how we could take something even as small as this, break them into components, understand the React architecture, and then we can apply that to larger applications, which is the goal, right? I don't want to start with Pinterest and Twitter right off the bat. It's going to be overwhelming to try to build that out, trust me. So this particular, Code Sandbox, has anyone worked with Code Sandbox before? Is anyone kind of working with it on a regular basis? No? It's a pretty cool tool. What about Code Pens? Does anyone work with Code Pens? Yeah, Code Pens are great. I have thousands of Code Pens. I've used them so often and forked so many of my own that even when I'm looking for one of them, there's like 20 forked versions of them, and I have a hard time finding it. But I just started kind of working with Code Sandbox because they allow you to spin up a React application. Code Pen does as well, but Code Sandbox does it more in the Create React app way of doing things. And Create React app is a tool that if we installed, we could spin up React apps locally. Right? I don't want to do local anything as of yet, because if you have an issue with code, I don't know, what am I going to show it to me? I have to test it out, right? And if you were building something out or testing something out, you could just say, hey, Joe, here's the link to my Code Sandbox. Can you take a look at it? And that makes it easier for me to open it up, fix the thing, send it to you, fork it, edit it, send you my version, say, hey, it was this thing. It just makes it so much easier for us to learn this and kind of share our code together. So I wanted to walk through the first process of like React. Now I've edited this to remove the React, some of the React stuff. So even though it's here, it is supposedly a React app. I've removed some things so that it doesn't act like a React app that it should act like. Now, it's not doing anything either. Ultimately, we're going to click on these colors. It'll change the background. It's not going to do anything. We'll capture a color. So like, hey, red, and I submit it. I should capture red, should put a red circle there. I mean, tool is pretty basic. It should do all those things. Now, the one thing that we have to realize that with React, and much of the time with the tools that we use, we don't really even concern ourselves with this side of the React development, is because they just kind of add the libraries there, and I'm like, I don't really have to think of the libraries, right? The things are just there. But if we wanted to work with React, well, then we have to import the libraries, right? Some of you worked with Angular. If you worked with jQuery, same thing. We have to import the libraries. And so in our Code Sandbox, this add dependency is how we add a dependency. Dependency is going to be the React libraries, because there's several libraries that we need to add in order for this to work. So if I click on add dependency, it takes me to this screen. And it's showing me some of the most popular JavaScript libraries that are out there. I mean, this is a JavaScript tool. There's thousands and thousands of JavaScript libraries that are out there, but we're looking for something very specific, and I'm looking for React, right? That's the library that I'm looking for. Now, when I do this, I would see React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. Look, Facebook made it. This is probably the one I want, right? You might see other things like React, okay, React DOM, React.js. I'm going to click on React, and I've added React. So now I have it here as part of the dependencies, okay? That's one dependency. React is kind of split into two different libraries. One is to create components, and you've already created components as part of the pre-work, right? I think it was the blog. You're creating a blog, and you created some components. And so React itself here is to kind of work with those components, build out components. But there's another library that we need that manages the virtual DOM, and it allows us to mount our application. So I'm going to go back to add dependency. And in here, I'm going to do React again. And the one that I want is React DOM. See, I want to add the React DOM library. Facebook as well. Boom. Okay. And there's one more tool that we need to add for this particular environment. one of those things, the last one is called, I'm going to, even if I do React, it doesn't come up. So I'm going to say React scripts. Right, it's React scripts. And it's made by Facebook as well. Okay. So they're just configuration scripts for a create React app. So what Facebook did was they came out with this library, but back in the days to get React up and running was a really convoluted process. Took a lot of scaffolding to get this thing working. So somebody at Facebook's like, hey, why don't we just create this tool called Create React App? And all they have to do is create React App, the name of the app, and it spins up a React application. You couldn't get any easier solution as spinning up a React app. So I'm going to add this. Okay. Nothing really changes. I don't know what happened. Nothing. Nothing changes here. We're just adding the libraries. That's all. I'm just adding the dependencies that are needed for React. It's a JavaScript library, and it has dependencies. And so if you've worked with Node, has anyone worked with Node? Working with Node, I know, yeah. So Node has dependencies, right? You install something, and that thing has dependencies, and there's dependencies, right? And your package JSON here is what tells the application what the dependencies are, okay? So if I go into package JSON, I can see that this particular application that the Code Sandbox spun up for us, once again, when it spun it up as a React app. I removed some of the React things so we could add them. So I could walk you through the necessity and how you would add dependencies if you needed to, okay? The dependencies here, React, React DOM, and React scripts. One thing to note about React is that it's constantly evolving, constantly. Material that we have a year ago for React, I'm not going to say is outdated, but could use some updating. They come out with a new thing called React hooks, which is new, right? But that's new almost a year now, and have to learn it because it's React, right? You just can't be like, oh, I'm not going to learn it. The thing is new to React, and you have to learn it because it takes on so quickly. And we will learn React hooks after we learn the fundamentals of React, okay? Because a lot of the apps that you're going to see out there didn't leverage the latest version of React. So they're up to 16.9 at least here. If we went on to the React site, might see even a later version than that. I'm not really sure. I think hooks came out in 16.8 maybe. I'm not really sure. I'd have to take a look at the versioning. So React, React DOM, and then React scripts. And React scripts is just something that's going to run under the hood. We don't really have to do anything. Just use the tool, the thing spins it up, everything works. But then the React scripts are down here that would get run if we needed to. Once again, we don't really need to do anything. I just wanted to really tie in the fact that these libraries, these JavaScript libraries, are the things that this thing depends on, okay? So now that we've kind of gone through the libraries, I'm going to go to the two main files here. Is this index file and this style file, right? Style file is not going to, it's just styles. Index file has nothing inside of it. So how do I get what I see on the screen? Where is that coming from? So a create React app has a public directory, and other server-based tools have it. So anyone who said they worked on the back end knows they probably have a public folder. So when we do, I'm teaching Node and Express, which is Express is a framework for building out web servers on the back end, has a public folder. If I want to give the client some content, I can put an index file in there and it renders it. And that's where this is coming from. So if I go in here, I'm going to see between lines 33 and 52, I'm just going to put a space there, this is this code right here. That's really it. It's not magic. If you know HTML, you know what it does. I mean, and for the class, you really kind of have to know HTML as well. This isn't just, I'm going to do all JavaScript. We're building out the front end. You're building out the user interface. Every React component renders a portion of the user interface. So you have to know the importance of main, right? The semantic naming elements, like headers and footers are pretty self-explanatory. Articles and asides, what do they do? How would you get rid of the dots in an LI? Like, these are things you're going to have to kind of know as part of the front end. But this is really basic. This thing right here is just a main with an H1, you know, color switcher, a paragraph with some text, a form here with an input and a button, and a UL with a bunch of LIs, and that's what these things are. That's all I got, just a bunch of LIs. And I've gone ahead and added, you know, the CSS tag here. This is pointing to this, and this styles this thing. That's it. Not a whole lot of magic here. But we want to kind of replace this. And the reason why I do this is to show you how easy it is just to take code that you might already have and turn it into a React application. It's not too hard if it's just kind of basic HTML. If there's some like jQuery and you're clicking on buttons, well, then you just like went from basic to like, if you don't know React, I gotta like add click events and like pass methods around. Like, that's much more complicated. But to take this structure and convert it into a React app, it's really, really pretty basic to do. And so the question is, you know, how the hell do we do it then, right? All right, I'm going to go back to index. Okay, now I'm in index. And because we have these dependencies of React right here, index is kind of the mounting point in this particular create React app. Index is what gets loaded. It gets loaded and it executes the React application. So the root of our React application is index. That's it. That's important to know because there'll be like one thing extra in this file that you won't find in other files, and we'll cover that. So I'm going to start with, when we're learning ES6, you learned about importing. So this is a JavaScript file. I need to get those dependencies into this file so I can use them. So I'm going to import React from React. Okay. And I think it's going to tell me I have to use improve import. I don't know why it's telling me this. Let me see. Oh, because I'm not using it. React is declared but never used. Okay, that's just kind of a warning. React is declared but never used if you have variables. This has an ESLint tool or a linting tool that's like, hey, I see this thing. You declared it, but you never used it, so maybe you want to consider removing it. There's no point in having like obsolete code that's not doing anything. Cool. So I have React. I also need to import React DOM from React DOM. Okay? Am I going? Should get the same warning, like neither one of those are being referenced anywhere. Okay. We've imported our libraries. Now we can start working with React. Okay? So React, or the Create React app, recently kind of changed its tool to downgrade class-based functions, class-based components into functional components. So there are different components, types of components that we can use. And for the pre-work, you were working with class-based components. Is that correct? Class-based, anybody remember the components you were working with, right? You built out the blog thing, right? Blog tool? Yes? Yeah, built out the blog tool. Did it all. Okay, then you know. You probably did class, blog, extends React, right? You did something like that? Of course you did. All right. So we're going to jump into the most fundamental thing of React. Before you get into a class-based component, there's another level of component that's like lower than a class. It's this really simple thing that's like, I just want to return UI. That's all I want to do. And so that type of component is a functional component. So if you know JavaScript, you know what a function is. And I'm going to say app, and I'm going to create a function. Okay? Now, the one thing you have to note here for a functional component, so a functional component, okay, that's what we're building. But components in general, some of the requirements here are requirements must start with a uppercase letter, okay? The name of your app, the name of the function must start with an uppercase letter. If it doesn't, it's going to break. That's just React's way of looking through things and knowing what's a component and what's just a function that you're using to support the logic inside of your app. Okay, it treats this thing very different than it would treat a normal function. Okay, and the other thing that we need to do here is must return UI. UI just being the user interface. What portion of what I'm looking at here is going to be returned? That's really what this defines. Now, in the end, you will see with React, I could break this whole thing down and make every last element a component. Wouldn't really make sense to do that. Really wouldn't make sense to make an H1 a component or a paragraph tag a component. That's just going too fine-grained, but sections of things could be components. Like the title and the paragraph could be their own component, okay? The UL and the LIs could be their own components, okay? And we will actually make those their own components. So if we're here and we have this, we want to return something. So if I say, hey, return, and we need to return something. Now, when we return content, it's already erroring out. You see on the right-hand side, this thing is already erroring out. I'm going to save my file. You see the little circle up here tells me that the little circle needs to be an X, otherwise I'm not saving it. So if you refreshed your screen, you would see what I have now, okay? Even the HTML, I'm going to save that as well. So we have to constantly save. Now, this thing is broken. It's like, hey, and that's because it must return UI. You have to put something in here. You cannot just leave this thing empty, okay? And what is inside of the return is JSX. So I'm just going to put another note here. What's inside of return is JSX, okay? And JSX code is just like a combination of like JavaScript meets HTML, and they lived happily ever after. Okay, when React came out in 2013, and they introduced the idea of like, hey, we want to combine JavaScript and HTML together. When everyone up to that point was like, whoa, we like to separate this stuff on the front end. We always have separate files. Everyone kind of took a step back and was like, that doesn't sound right. But it is, and it's been adopted now. The only time you would see kind of JavaScript and HTML combined is if you were using like templating engines. Has anyone used like Handlebars? Or if you work with Node and Express. Mega, I know you worked with Node, so you must have learned EJS. Is that correct?
Yes.
You learned EJS, right? And EJS was this quirky thing where you had to like send data into the HTML and you could do for loops and map over data and create things, right?
Yes.
The back-end way of doing templating is, I'm not going to say dead and going away. It's not dying. But this front-end way of doing it gives us more of a single-page app. I give you content once, and as you need additional content, you go back to the server, grab the server, and React updates the minimal most components or UI that you need in order to see what it is that you're looking to see. Okay, the header and the navigation and the footer, they never change. They stay consistent. They're always on the page. The content in the middle, that's what changes. Whatever you click on and now you see new data, that's what changes, right? I think Angular did the same thing. So in here, we have to return something. Okay, and so what do we want to return? I mean, we can return whatever we want. I can say, I can just put a div here, or here we go. I'll just make it simple. I'll have an H1 and I'll just say first React app. I know you created another React app, right? Because you did the block. This is just temporary anyway. We're going to go and grab the rest of the code in just a minute. I just want to show you how the two can coincide together. They can live together, okay? So I'm just going to do that. Nothing's on the screen yet. Nothing has happened, okay? No errors, no nothing. Looks pretty good. It's just like, I don't really know what you want me to do. You got this. That's great. What we need to do now is, and I'm going to use the term, this is what I like to say, you know, mount the React app. Okay, we have to mount the React app in the HTML. HTML, right? And by that, there's got to be an anchor in the HTML that we can do this. So if you worked with Angular, I know a few of you mentioned Angular, you would have done what? John, what would you have done if it was Angular to mount it? What do you target? Yeah, John, I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying I would target the body tag.
Okay, and you would put what there? NG what?
NG app.
Yeah. All right. So in Angular, there's a way to do NG app, and that tells Angular like everything under this element I'm able to manage. Anything outside of it, I don't really know what's going on. And so React is kind of similar to that in the respect that I need to tell it what I want to grab and control inside of the HTML. I don't have to control the whole page. I can control small sections of it, or I can render the whole thing, the whole page. So I'm just going to quickly go back to the HTML just to see if there's anything in here that stands out. And there's this div ID root, okay? In a React app, if we spun this up, we'd really see div ID root. There wouldn't be any main here, and all of a sudden we would have seen what React wanted us to see. This becomes our mounting element. We're going to tell React, find the element with an ID of root and attach yourself to that, and you control everything inside of that. You could build out Facebook inside of ID root, and Facebook would live there, and everything that Facebook says is inside of that. So I'm going to go back now to index because I have to kind of target that. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say const root element is equal to, and this will be the only time, truly the only time, that you will be using the old school JavaScript way of doing this. Document dot get element by ID, right here, bloop, and I'm going to target root. Okay? Now, if you've worked with JavaScript to manipulate the DOM, if you haven't used jQuery, some companies just use JavaScript to manipulate the DOM. They're not doing jQuery. They're not doing React. I had one of my students, I was kind of like shocked. They were like, oh yeah, they're not using React. We're doing everything using plain JavaScript. And I was like, that's crazy. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they use jQuery? jQuery makes this so much easier than doing this. And trust me, doing it in plain JavaScript just requires a lot of overhead on your part, okay? But this allows us, this document.getElement by ID is just JavaScript's way of grabbing that root element. Does anyone know what document is, though? Just curious. Can anyone tell me what document is?
All of
Oh, what?
all of the content on the page.
Yes, it's all the content on the page, right? The document is, you know, if I go to developer tools right now, if I just go to developer tools, which once again, this is also another tool I kind of assume you've worked with, right? I live in this tool, right? This is the tool. So if any student calls me over and go, hey, my thing doesn't work, I'm like, well, why isn't developer tools open? Like, that's probably where you're going to see the error. So I'm going to just get rid of any of these errors or warnings. And in here, if I type in document, look, everything gets highlighted. If I hit enter, and every time I hover, everything that's on the page is in the document. Okay, the document is the document object model. Everything that's in the HTML needs to be loaded into a virtual space, right? It needs to be somewhere where I can visibly see it. And so when it does do it, it kind of turns it into this object here. It's like this document object model. It's a model, an object model representation of what's ever on the page. And so document here is that document. And then there's this method that says look inside the document and find a single thing that has an ID. Because if you've also worked with HTML, how many IDs, I'm just going to go back to the index page, how many IDs of root can I put on this page? Or should I put on the page?
You should just put one.
One single ID of root. I can have 1,000 IDs, but only one of them could be called root, right? I can have more. I've taught it where I put the same ID a couple of times and the elements inherited those settings, right? It works if you add them, but when it comes to the world of JavaScript, JavaScript is configured to only look for the one instance. The first instance it finds, it stops. Doesn't look for any more. So some of the JavaScript methods look for multiple things like class names, probably more than one class, right? Element with a class name, but this is a single instance element, okay? So we have this single instance element. And now we are going to use the other library. Now I mentioned that React is meant to kind of deal with the components. That's really what it does. And React DOM is to kind of deal with mounting it and controlling the virtual DOM. So I'm going to say React DOM dot render. It's the method. I'm going to tell it what I want to render, the component I want to render, and I have to close it, and where I want to render this. Root element, okay? And what we're going to see is first React app has been added to the screen. So I'm just going to add a note here, okay? Dot render needs to know what component to render and where to render it, okay? Now, you only run this once. This is run once only in the main index.js file or app.js file, depending on what tool you use. If I was using a create React app locally on my machine, it would have been app. No, it would have been index. It would still be index. Okay. This only runs once. And so I cover it because you're never really ever going to have to type it out. To be in all honesty, you're going to spin up a tool that already has this, mounts it, so you're not going to be responsible for doing this. But I think it's important for you to know. You're building out React. What is this thing? Why do we need it? My React app isn't working. Do I have this thing, right? That's important. Do I have it? So I know my app works because I see it. First React app. If I change this, first React app, for my amazing remote friends. It updates, right? Easy enough. Anything that I put in here will update it. But I want the other stuff, right? I want the rest of this code. So all you would have to do, and this is the fun part of just kind of like creating your first React app by taking HTML that you already have and sticking it in and like, oh my God, this thing works. This is great. Is this, if I went back to styles, I'm sorry, index, and I have all my code from line 34 to line 53, that's all that stuff right here, right? So if I was to cut this, I cut it right out of here. I'm just going to take it. It's gone. Oh, I think I lost I missed this ending main. I cut this. It disappears, right? Because it's no longer in the HTML. Okay, I'm going to save the HTML. Nothing happened. I'm going to go back to index. I'm just going to paste it. I'm going to overwrite that. And look, I got my first React app. Okay? I mean, you already created your first React app. So yeah, there's your second, third, fourth React app. I don't know what you're up to yet. But doing it this way just kind of allows you to take things that you might have worked in CodePens and like really kind of convert it over, at least as far as the HTML is concerned, or as least as far as the CSS, right? I can get both of those and I can start working with it, okay? And I would say here, I just have to, I guess, move this over and then tab these over. I'm a real stickler for things looking nice, so I'm just going to tab it over. I'm going to save it. And that's our first React app. Well, even though the React app is working, nothing seems to be broken here. There is something that's not right here, and it has to do with in this little world over here, although it looks like HTML, I mean, that's what it looks like, but it's really JSX. It's this combination of JavaScript and HTML, and it's very specific. There are some rules that govern JSX. So when I said what's inside of return is JSX, okay? And I'm just going to put here some JSX rules, okay? JSX rules. Classes need to be renamed class name. Anytime I have a class like this, I have to rename it. Now it works here, but if I spun this up in a local create React app on my local machine, it would error out. It wouldn't like this. It would fight back. So this needs to be class name, and I would need to do it for all three of them. Oh, it's not allowing me to do it. Hold on. No. Thought I could do all three of them at the same time. Class name, class name, class name. All right? Easy enough. Thank God we only had those four. That's one of those rules with JSX, okay? The other rule of JSX is that you can only have one parent element, right? In this case, it's main, okay? Now that parent element could have a million children, and those children could have a million children, and that could go on forever. If at any point in time I tried to add another thing here, I'm like, oh, here's main, but I forgot to add, I don't know, my header. Oh, so I'm just going to add my header. It's going to flip it out. React's like, whoa, JSX people, we have rules. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. If you wanted to do that, if you wanted to have a header and you wanted to have a footer, right? Because I know you want to build your app nice. That's what you want. Well, then you would have to surround this in something else. I would have to say div or whatever, what other element. Like mean is a pretty top level element. Div, oh, I have to close it. And then it works again. You can only have one top level element. That's all you can have. Okay, so if I tab this over, right, it looks good. Tab this over. Okay, I don't need anything in my header. I don't need anything in my footer. Just having them present caused React to be like, whoa, this is broken. You can't do that. Okay. But I can add as many things I want now inside of div. Same conceptually with main. Main could have had 1,000 children. Div can have 1,000 mains if it wants. Doesn't matter. But we can only have one top level parent. Okay. Another thing, I think it may be a little forgiving. Here, let me say. All right. Not so forgiving. If I was in a code pen, I could easily put an input without the self-closing tag. But here, you need to include it. So I do this all the time in CodePens, and it works. And the minute React happens, it's like, oh man, I broke it. I'm like, why? What broke it? Because it was working just before, right? So I'm going to put here must include closing tags. Okay? If it's self-closing, you need the closing tag. Once again, it's forgiving in a regular CodePen, but unforgiving in React. Although the class names were forgiving. But in a real React app, that would have broken them. It wouldn't have worked. Okay? And so I think, this is a great start to kind of learning just the fundamentals of React, creating something from scratch. I know you did the blog, and you got your hands, when you're creating some React apps. But I really want you to understand some of the true fundamental things. And you really won't forget about closing tags. You really won't forget about the parent, one parent. These are things that we're just going to keep re-emphasizing over and over again in class names. But I wanted to make sure we kind of like covered those things because we're just going to be building React apps from this point on, right? I'm really big into just coding. Code along, you get a lab. The way I teach the class is 20, 30 minutes of me doing something along with you, a code along, teaching something, and then giving you a lab so you get to do it on your own, okay? And we only have a shot within the 2-hour period to do 2 instances of that if we can successfully, okay? So that's my goal. If we had time right now, you'd be taking this and I'd give you another app and be like, do the thing. You saw me do it, you do it now, right? So the labs are going to be more like, I did the thing, now it's your turn to do the same thing. Follow the structure, okay? It's probably how we're going to work it out.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
So just to go back to the closing tag. So is that for everything or that it has to be that style?
Yeah, anything that would have a closing element, any HTML element in general, either has a closing thing. Like, I'm even surprised this is working because these LIs should have a closing thing. I'm surprised that this is even like doing this. As far as I would have written this, it should have been like that. Well, this is breaking now, so I'm not really sure. Oh, because this has this closing. It should be like this. I'm really surprised that this was working because I've never used self-closing LIs before. That's just kind of weird. I'm not even sure why that is.
So the typical way is to do it like this, the way you're doing it right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every HTML element itself in general requires a closing element. Some of the elements like input or image have something called self-closing because they're not supposed to contain content. Because they're not supposed to contain content, it's like, well, why give it a closing tag when it never had anything to put in between the closing tag, right? Opening and closing, content in the middle. So there's certain elements that were just like, they're never going to contain content, so why not just give them self-closing?
Is that true also for breaking?
Let's take a look. Look, it added it. It breaks it, right? So it's like, it has to have an opening and closing. I think even like, I don't know, an HR also, right? That would have been a line, add a line. But if I try to get rid of this, it breaks it, right? In normal HTML, that would have worked. I do it all the time. Put it just a single HR, single BR. You never have to add an opening and closing, but you do. It's very strict. This isn't, just understand this, this isn't HTML. This is JSX. It's a combination of HTML, which is, the JSX is more like XML, and XML has always been really specific. You have an opening, you have a closing. That's XML, very stringent in its rule set.
For a BR, could you actually close it within the existing one instead of doing 2?
Let's try. See? Yep, you could do that. Cool. Any questions?
Just to make sure I'm not missing, is this just for the demonstration's sake, the function keyword is it, I know it works, but as far as ES6 is concerned, like you can skip that and not have the word function.
Oh, so you're saying if I got rid of this?
No, I mean like do the const, the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, we could have done it in the ES6 way, or just storing it. I could have said const app is equal to this, you mean, right?
Yeah.
So if we did this, let me just see.
Right, as long as I know it's not a requirement to have that like first function.
Yeah, you don't. You could have done it this way or the other way. When you spin up when you spin up this particular tool, like a brand new one, it does it this other way. So I'm just going to go back to the other way, only because this is the way anytime you start up a new code sandbox, it creates it in this fashion. Okay, but we could do it the other way. These files are only going to contain one component per file. So I don't know if we need to put it into a variable. Doesn't hurt, but just more typing for us at this point, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
Cool. Any other questions? All right, sounds good. I'm going to save this. It is in the code along, right? So this code along right now has a link to this thing. What we just did is here. All the code's there. You can take a look at it. I'm going to put my notes in here. You'll always have access to this. I'm not going to go back and delete it. It'll always be part of this. Okay? So I know we're coming on 9:56 here. So homework. Finish the pre-work if you didn't already do it. Okay? If you did do it, maybe try spinning up a new code sandbox and taking some of your code pens and adding the code there. I know some people took Feud classes. Some people have code pens. You can easily spin those up. And then just to kind of keep you going, like I just tagged in an article here on, why React should be a perfect choice for your next, because a lot of you are like, oh, this is where the companies are going. This is what they want me to do. So why is it? And so, just read it. There are some stuff with like React Native, because React Native is also a big thing too, right? For mobile. You're building today for mobile, like mobile first is what you're thinking about when you build out an app. You're not building out desktop, you're building mobile. More than 50% of user population is doing mobile. So you really have to think that. So you can just read through it. If you have any insights, just let me know. All right. And then the last thing is the exit tickets, and I will Slack this out. I'm going to Slack it, and I'm going to pin it into the Slack channel. So here's our little Slack channel. All right, it's going to go to full screen here. Slack it, bloop. And I'm going to pin it into our channel. And so I've pinned two things. I think I pinned the spreadsheets that have the Trello account info and this particular form. So you could take a moment to fill out the exit ticket. That'd be great. My manager's going to want to know everyone filled it out. And I'm going to tell her everyone filled it out. Everyone's awesome. And they want to give me feedback. And yeah. That would be class, right? 2 hours goes by really fast. Oof. All right, so if there's no other questions, I'll stop the share, fill out the exit ticket. I'm gonna look at the exit ticket feedback after the class, and I will, once the Zoom session ends, it then compiles the recording, and I will add a link in the Trello board to the recording. So if you needed to go back and take a look at it, you could. All right, and feel free to Slack me with any questions you might have between now and the next class. All right?
Thank
All
you.
right. Oh, I'm sorry, Connor, you have a question?
I just said thank you.
Oh, cool. All right, yeah. Thank you, and yeah, have a good night. I'll catch you all on Thursday. Sweet. Ciao.
Have a good one. See you in 2 days.
Yeah, okay.
Night.
Good night, everyone. Share.